This is Austin Parsons, Pitmaster with Smoky Mountain Q in Nashville, Tennessee, and you are listening to the BBQ Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the really big BBQ Central Show. This is the show where we talk about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to get in touch with the show this evening, or if you don't know how to follow the show and you want to know how to do that, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at BBQCentralShow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you can get the newsletter. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, it has been almost 3? How good is the math here? It's almost been 5 years since the last... Jeepers creepers, is that right? NBBQA in 2018, and I don't think he's been on since. Which is a crime. When you hear the name Big Bob Gibson, who do you think about? Chris Lilly, right? And he will be on the show here this evening starting at 9:14 Eastern. And because we've had such a gap of time since the last we've met up and talked, we will run him through 35 past the hour as well, or as long as it makes sense and the conversation is going. But we have plenty to catch up on, not the least of which Memphis in May took place this past weekend. So we'll be talking all about that, plus a number of other items as well. So longtime friend of this show, done a number of interviews over the years, the decades. A 2022 BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame inductee. And I can't believe it took that long. I'll probably also hit on that as well. So Chris Lilly in the first hour. Then we will move to the second hour, and it is the fourth Tuesday of a month. And in the second hour, you know that brings a visit from our pals, the Embedded Correspondents. Doug Scheiding from Texas, John Solberg from Michigan, and Rusty Monson from the great city of Utah, all set and ready to join me. We will be going over a brand new list of 100% Assurity questions, and then we will get into some other topics, not the least of which, by the way, programming note, if you didn't know, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on the BBQ Central Show, you will have an exclusive announcement where we will reveal who will be making up the class of the BBQ Hall of Fame 2023 edition. All the living members that are going in, totaling 4, and we will have the legacy members, and we will also find out tomorrow if there is a Impact Award recipient. That's something that doesn't happen every year. Last year was the first year, but through Robert Moss and some other dealings with folks on the name committee, that's not something that has to happen every year. It's just something if they see fit or it fits in whatever they're talking about, then they will have an Impact Award winner that year. So we'll see if that happens. And again, all that happens live tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern right here. So stay tuned for that. Make a note. And if you miss it, it will be in a podcast later in the day. So that's how the second hour is going to set up. So Chris Lilly coming up here in a few short minutes. The embedded correspondents will run the balance of the second hour, and we will mix in your emails and social media shout-outs as well. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook and Twitch/BBQ Central Show. By the way, don't be fooled. It's my fault. I forgot to update the text underneath it. I apologize. This is May 23rd. It's a live show. I know the text says it was last week's show, but every once in a while, I don't do everything. That's my fault. But this is a live show here Tuesday on 5/23. Don't worry about that, even though the text is telling you something differently. But you can watch us Facebook and Twitch/BBQ Central Show. You can also watch us on YouTube YouTube.com at BBQ Central Show is how I think they're saying it these days. And guess what? We have a new YouTube poll question of the week. And we ask everybody this. Is attending the Memphis in May Barbecue Festival on your barbecue bucket list? And currently, 85% of you are saying yes. All right. 15% are saying no. And I will reserve my comments for later in the show because you never know when I might have to break a tie. But right out of the gate, the yays are bringing it to the nays. By the way, if you missed the end of the show last week, 95% of the show you were running. I forget what the name of what was the question last week? I don't know, but everybody was answering no. Oh, does it matter if a barbecue restaurant has Brunswick stew or not? And 95% of the show, it was 100% no. Nobody cared. And right at the end, some guy had to come, or gal, had to come in and sneak in and drop in a no and ruin it for everybody.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Not the case this week. So 86% of you now are saying yes. Attending Memphis in May is a barbecue bucket list item for you. And I don't have to ask Chris Lilly that coming up next segment because obviously he's been going there for the last 25 years or whatever it is. But we can certainly get his feedback on that as well. So let's go ahead and start here this evening. And I'm surprised at how many emails and messages I got in regards to the West Right segment from last week. And specifically, because we were talking about a number of items, but specifically the Kamado Joe connected Joe part of the conversation. There was an overwhelming majority of you who thought that this was a really cool option being introduced into the ceramic grill market. Obviously, first going with Kamado Joe here, but maybe it's something that is going to catch fire, no pun intended, and you'll see it spread across the two other big guys, that being Big Green Egg and Primo, although we've had Nick Bauer, the president and owner of Primo Grills currently, mentioned right on the show as the Connected Joe was originally pilfered out a handful of months ago and said, well, the guys that are giving that technology to Kamado Joe came right over to our house the next day and offered us the same thing. So it's not lockdown technology. Whoever gave this or whoever came up with it and did the deal with Kamado Joe, there's no exclusivity here. They went right over to Primo and asked if they wanted to do the same thing. I would only imagine that they also went to the market leader in Big Green Egg and also asked if they would want this too. But there is an overwhelming majority of you that were writing in and reacting that thought it was a great option. So much so that I was encouraged all by myself to get in touch with some folks that I know that have it, put together a segment, and we can talk about their experience with it, if it's just as easy as dumping in coal and setting a temperature and hitting a button, walking away, a la pellet cooker, except this is being done with charcoal and on a ceramic cooker. So if you want a bit more insight before you go to the store or store and snatch one up, you might want to stay tuned or follow me socially and get the heads up on when we're going to be doing this segment. I was looking at possibly next week because, we originally had Bob Trudnak, Mo Case on to talk about this whole barbecue restaurant thing that they had going on. But, of course, that's on the out.
Get that big stuff out of here.
However, Mo did really well at Memphis in May. We love talking with Bob Trudnak, of course, and I encourage them to keep the segment. We don't have to talk about what's going on with the restaurant because I believe there's still some legalities being worked out there. And they said, you know what? We agree. We'll go ahead and do that segment next week. So I would say Connected Kamado Joe Cooker Talk could be that first week in June, maybe that second week in June in the second hour. But I'm working through some logistics with some folks that have it and getting schedules to match up and all this stuff. So let you know when that happens, but stay tuned. And again, follow me socially so you can get the ins and outs on when that's actually going to happen, especially if you're somebody that's so interested you might go out and buy one. Listen first before we frivolously go out and spend our thin guilders. All right, Chris Lilly is ready to rock. And before we get to him, I'll talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits, the best looking, best cooking smokers and grills. Pits and Spits offers a full family of products, including traditional offset smokers, wood pellet grills, charcoal grills, travel grills, combination pits, fire pits, and much more. Pits and Spits has been one of the only American fabricating shops in the country that's focused on smokers and grills solely for 40 years. Why is that important? Because they're able to put an emphasis on quality and design, locally sourced materials, and give you an unmatched attention to detail. From the fully welded barrels to the heavy gauge steel, they bring both function and beauty to life. Pits and Spits builds every product with the intention that it's going to get passed down from generation to generation. Whether you're in the competition scene or if you're just a backyard ham and egger like me, you can take the barbecue and grilling game to the next level at Pits and Spits because there is a product for you. Check them out online, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central and use promo code BBQ Central for a free spice pack when you order $500 or more. That can be done in a couple different ways. You can buy a cooker, or you can amass a number of accessories to get to that $500 threshold. And then as you check out, just enter BBQ Central for that free spice pack. And again, the website, Pits and Spits. That's a double T on the Pits and then on the Spits. pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. Find the cooker that's right for you. If you have questions, lob a phone call in, talk to Coy in the shop, or ask for Ryan, the owner, and they'll make sure you're situated with exactly what you need, and you have success right off the bat. We are back with Chris Lilly right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit Amazon.com or Lowe's.com or Walmart.com and purchase there as well and save on shipping. It's good folks over at cookinpellets.com. In fact, Chris Becker and I might have a new segment in the works, but stay tuned for that. My guest in the first hour is one of the most recognizable faces in the live fire industry. He is one of only two pitmasters that can lay claim to being a 5-time overall grand champ at Memphis In May. He is also a successful cookbook author and, of course, most well known for keeping the Big Bob Gibson's name known throughout the barbecue landscape. In 2016, he was inducted into the BBQ Hall of Fame, and in 2022, he was inducted into the BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. I am, of course, talking about our pal, Chris Lilly. Chris, before we get into all of the conversations that we're going to be having here this evening, A, welcome back. Of course, we've had a long layoff. But B, the YouTube poll question of the week is attending Memphis in May, is that a bucket list item for you? Obviously, I can't ask you that question because you go all the time, every year for the last 25 years or however long it's been. But as somebody who has been there, if somebody came up to you and said, Chris, I'm a fan of barbecue. I like to cook it in my backyard, but should I go to Memphis in May? What's your sell on that?
I would say absolutely. I think all four of the big world championships, the the American Royal, the Jack Daniels, Houston Livestock, and Memphis in May. They're all a bucket list barbecue because they're so different. A lot of folks say, I've been to one, I've been to them all. Absolutely not. They're all so niche, all so different. I mean, you can't even compare the experience at one to the other. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you which one is the best. I've been to all four and love the experience to all four. You know, Memphis definitely has a special place in my heart because that was our first major, as our first major win, and we've been doing it probably longer than any other contest. Not by much. We've been to the Royal every year, and we'll be back again this year. But you got to go to all four, and then you can come to a decision on which is better. But it's Memphis is really inviting to the public. A lot of the teams are open, and you can come and go and meet a lot of people at Memphis. So I highly recommend it.
Before we get into everything else, a wrong was righted last September when one Chris Lilly was inducted into the 2022 BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame class. Now, admittedly, very embarrassed when I realized that this was the case, that you hadn't already been in. And I think I can speak for myself, obviously, and the embedded correspondents who will be in the second hour tonight. We all thought probably you were in with that inaugural class back in 2018 when we started this thing. And then as we do our homework to start to mention guests, it's a whole process that we do every September. I quickly realized as I'm going back through the inductees, oh, there's no Chris Lilly here. So I brought it up in September of last year, and quickly you were put through unanimously, but we were all just embarrassed here. So let's discuss what has to be, and I don't think I'm overstretching here, the crowning achievement in a barbecue career, that being the induction into the BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. How can it get better than that, Chris?
You know, I've got a few world championship rings, but I'll just show you something right here. There's only one that is on my microphone.
Look at that. Now that is badass right there. I like it.
No, definitely proud. And, I do not care that I wasn't in the inaugural class just as long as I'm in, my friend. So love your show. You've been doing it a long time. It's there's just a handful of us that's been doing it as long as we have. We've been doing the barbecue thing a long time. So I'm right there with you. Big fan of you and the show, and proud to be associated with it.
I think as I went back to do the quick math, 2007, so the show wasn't even in its live format at that point. We didn't start that until February of 2008. So as it was just launching as an original podcast in 2007 was the first time you were on, and then we've had fairly regular conversations all the way through there. Sometimes we have some years that go in between us, but I think maybe aside from Bob Trudnick at the Barbecue Guru, you, Ray Lampe, have been the most consistent long time. You know, there's another guy that's been doing it forever and is still as relevant as ever. So it's been an honor for me to get to know you, 15 years ago back then, and then to still be able to have you come on and we can talk about things that are happening in live fire and the changes that we've seen over our time in here has been a very humbling and wonderful thing for me here because, all you guys legitimize the show as you show up here and we talk shop.
Well, I appreciate it because it's an intelligent show, and really, I'm pretty relaxed when I'm talking to you. So you tend to get a lot more information out of me, and how about Ray Lampe? He's one to speak his mind as well. You can always pull some gems out of him. So I think it's a head nod to you and your show. You put us in a really relaxed position where we can give you the goods.
As I had mentioned at the top of the show here, tomorrow we're actually doing a special exclusive announcement show where the class of the 2023 Barbecue Hall of Fame is going to be exclusively announced at 3 p.m. Eastern. You're somebody that's already in there. As I had mentioned, 2016, you were voted in. So you get to vote on the 10 finalists. Now they've upped the ante a little bit. We've gone from 3 people that'll make it into the Barbecue Hall of Fame every year now to 4. They went from 9 finalists to 10 finalists. So I'm not going to ask you who you voted for unless you're really just going to show that Chris Lilly courageousness and throw caution to the wind and let me know. I'm going to err on the side that you're not going to do that. But as you peruse the list, is there anybody, 1 or 2 or 3, that stick out to you as an inspiration to you or somebody that you admire that, whether you voted for them or not, just somebody you would want to speak a few minutes extra on?
Oh gosh, I think all of them are really impressed by this list because there's a lot of firsts. There's a lot of OGs, a lot of people who have were there when it began and really changed the barbecue world, whether it be with Sweet Baby Ray's or Butt Rub. These are, you look at it now, everybody's got their own dry rub. Everybody's got their own sauces, the sauce aisles and the dry rub aisles. I mean, you go on any kind of social media and you see how many dry rubs are out there now. Back in the beginning, it was Byron with his butt rub, and it was buttrub.com and competitions. I think he's doing a fabulous job. Sweet Baby Ray's, that was sort of the OG of barbecue sauces that came from a specific person. So you got to look there as well. There's a lot of people that inspired me when I first started cooking. Fast Eddie was out there. He took the guts out of the pellet auger and the driver system and turned it into a cabinet smoker for competitions. And then he hooked up with Cook Shack and really turned the pellet grill into a commercial unit, a huge commercial unit, with rotisserie and all. You also take people like Steve Grady and Florida Payne, who have cooked barbecue all their lives. I mean, you're talking about 35, 36 years in the business, doing nothing but cooking barbecue for the public every day. You can't forget about them. Gosh, who am I missing? There's so many fantastic.
I think just
people
Darren Worth. That's it.
Oh, Darren Worth! When you stack up world championships like he has, that is an easy pick right there. Darren is he's been consistently doing, and I used to say it's very difficult to win, but it's very difficult to win consistently and year after year after year, and that's one thing you can count on with Darren. Also, you got the Legacy Awards, which I'm very, very optimistic. One of the people that I hope get in this year that I've been a big fan of, that's been a big inspiration to me, is Bill Arnold with Blues Hog. He's a person that I think should already be in there. I'd love to see his name get read. And I'm talking about people who have really transformed barbecue in their own special way. I think all the people that I've listed, have a valid claim, to that. And then you look at David Close, from when I started, he was building huge trailer grills for companies, for backyarders, the world's largest, from small to large, any size in between. He was one of the first that did that, full time. There's a lot of people that affected the world of barbecue, and then affected me in my barbecue. So the list is really, really good. It's solid. I don't know who's going to get in. I had a tough choice, and I had to really read and research and take a look at everybody for a week before I could make my decision.
We'll find out tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern who's going to be in, so stay tuned for that. Let's transition to this past weekend, Chris, and I know it's kind of quick turnaround for you to come do this show after probably what was a very arduous week or so plus for Memphis in May. I don't know if a lot of people really understand what all goes into that. It's not something you just show up for on a Friday and then you cook, turn it in on Saturday, and then all of a sudden you're turning back home on a Sunday. It's a lot more involved than that. There was a lot of nonsense going on in the months that were in advance of this version of the Memphis in May. There was a bunch of Tom Lee Park renovations going on. There was a lot of back and forth between the Memphis in May Festival and the Parks Department, and there were all sorts of talk about $8,000 non-refundable security deposits, and the park was going to get rearranged, so the teams were going to have to go down. What was it like for you, and how did you find the renovations to be for the teams, and do you think it's a sustainable process going forward?
Gosh, barbecue drama, that's one thing you can absolutely leave me out of because,
Well, I think I can do the show for 15 years. It just never stops.
There is so much, but I usually try to stay out there. But I'm very observant. I have followed the whole situation. I've been cooking Memphis in May since 1997, a long dang time, and so I've seen it in all phases. The rain out or the flood out where we had to go over to Tiger Lane and do it, and then last year when we went back to Tiger Lane and I did that at the And then back to the Tom Lee Park this year. Yes, they did a ton of renovations, added hills and sidewalks and trees and vegetation, and really cut the park by, gosh, I want to say, 2/3 or at least a half, cut it down. So Memphis in May didn't have any choice. They had to cut the number of teams. So it went from, 250 roughly to about 150. Wow. The thing about it is last year they lost money. This year, hopefully they made money. But the problem is the barbecue drama and the headbutting and, between Memphis in May and the city and the park planners and the people that run the park. There's just so much there and so much tension there. I would not be shocked if we did not go back to the park. There was a lot of money spent on the park. A lot of turf went down right before Memphis in May, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. I think they should have held off on the turf before the music festival in Memphis in May, and then maybe laid the brand new turf after the fact. So, when you talk about, setting up, the weekend before and doing a whole week festival, and the weekend before with the music festival and having that many people down at the park, there's going to be, a lot of trample damage and mud holes and everything else. So it's a sit and wait right now. How much damage was done, how much money they have to put back into it. There was, talk of insurance policies and everything else. But I think we're sitting at a 50-50 right now, whether we will have Memphis in May back at that same location next year, or 50-50 whether it's even going to happen or not.
From a scenery standpoint, is this the place that it needs to be? Does it need to be Tom Lee Park because it's on the river and all the things that go along with that?
I think as far as the public goes, Memphis in May makes their money off of not only sponsorships and team admissions, but the main cog of this is the public interaction and the public paying gate. Is the money they draw from gates. It really is a winner or a loser, which made it a loser last year. So if you can't draw the people, and you're going to draw the most people right off of Beale Street, right off of downtown Memphis, right on the river. It's a place you want to go. It's a place you want to take your family. Where else in Memphis are they going to be able to pull that much crowd? I don't know that there is, although, I could be wrong. Could surprise me.
As I'd mentioned in the open and in your intro, you're a 5-time, overall world champ at Memphis in May. The only person that's got as many wins as you is your pal Myron Mixon over there at Jack's Hold South, who had a scheduling conflict and wasn't able to make it this past weekend. I'm wondering, the wins were coming, pretty rapidly, or at least in a good sector of time. And the farther you get away from overall world championships, do you start to think that maybe you and Myron end up at a deadlock ongoing? Because I don't see anybody really coming up and meeting you guys at 5 overall grands here anytime soon.
Well, it's interesting because the difference in a 6th place, which what we finished this year, 6th place in shoulders, and a 1st place shoulder, is one afterthought of one judge. It is one judge putting down a 9.8 instead of a 10, or a 9 instead of a 10. One of the 7 judges, because there's 4 blind judges and 3 on-site judges. So yes, we finished 6th, but probably less than 2 points out of finals. Get me in finals where I can put my shoulder up against all of the others head to head, and I feel really, really good. We've been doing this since 1997. Gosh, what is that? That's a long time. Is that
it's 28 years?
28 years, and we've only been out of the top 10 one time. So I don't think we're slipping or anything like that. I just think that there's a lot more, teams that have quality championship stuff. So, and the margins are so slim now. You pretty much got to get a perfect score, or pretty close to a perfect score, to make the finals in each category. And again, one afterthought by one judge would have been the difference in us, going to head in the finals.
I remember having an interview with you a while back, and you had talked about how the team had seen such great success for a number of years and then fell off. And it wasn't until you had started to do your own investigating, asking other pitmasters hey, what are you doing? Or, we used to be hitting and now we're not. And they ask if you were saucing the pork and you said, oh, no way. And they're like, well, yeah, everybody else is saucing the pork. And so you said, oh, okay. You went back to the tool shed and started winning again. As you had mentioned, finishing in the top 10 is great, but Chris Lilly and Big Bob Gibson is known for winning shoulder. And I think the last time you guys won shoulder was 2018. Do you think about tinkering at all at this point or not yet?
Absolutely. We did before we went in this year. I went in with the best pork shoulder product that I've ever put out at Memphis in May. Tweak the injection, tweak the finishing sauce, tweak the table sauces. And in every case, it was better, blind side by side than what we've been serving. So we felt great going in and still feel really, really good. Again, we barely missed out this year. So, and really, you got a fantastic memory, my friend. You've been doing as many shows as you've done, and I think that conversation was a while ago. But absolutely, we consider everything, and I lean on a lot of my friends. I cook 2 contests a year, the American Royal and Memphis in May. There's a lot that happens in those judges' tents between every year, from Royal to Royal or Memphis in May to Memphis in May. And judges, their outlooks change on what they expect when they open up a box, and the judges will say, "Well, we don't expect anything," but you wonder sometimes. So absolutely, we talk to friends and get help, here and there. Now, in total honesty, the biggest decision I'll have next year is to turn in a traditional Memphis in May box, or maybe gear a little bit closer to a KCBS turn in. That's a big question because used to, if you turned a KCBS box at Memphis, and I'm talking with the medallions and the, pulled chunk, just the different sort of meticulous outlay of pork, as opposed to just pulled pork in a box, you would absolutely get hammered. But I think over the last several years, a lot more judges have made the circle and do all different types of guys, both KCBS and judge at Memphis in May. So you get judges that are used to, a KCBS box turn in. So, do I do a hybrid box next year? Do I go back with, Memphis in May box? Do I, switch over to a KC? Because traditionally Memphis in May boxes and KCBS boxes are different. But now it's all sort of coming together. And so we'll see what happens next year.
You started going to Memphis in 97. You started winning world overall titles at Memphis in May in 2000. From a competition standpoint, how do you see your role specifically with the team moving forward here over the next 5-10 years?
Great question, and one I'm glad you asked. I'm positioned now that I have the 5th generation barbecue pitmasters, restaurateurs in the business. I've got 2 sons that I work with every day at the restaurants, one at each restaurant. The great thing about it is I get to travel with them. I get to do competitions and caterings and corporate events and stuff, and really just enjoy our time on the road as well. So I think in the future, I think I'll be a place where I can step back, and I've already started stepping back and letting them take the lead on a lot of things. Especially the overnight cooking. That was an easy, hey, you take this. Let me go back and get a little sleep. But, it's one of those things you got to pay your dues. And they jumped in and doing a fantastic job. So, yes, I'll pull back. I'll let them take the reins and, just enjoy watching them compete and run restaurants and things like that.
Chris, can I put you on hold here for a couple minutes and then we'll come back and pick it up?
For sure.
All right. Stand by. We'll be back with more Chris Lilly here in just 1 second. But before we talk about the restaurant a little bit further and some other things like barbecue television, what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true 2-zone cooking. 2-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a 2-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grill in the game-changing oval design. This shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. When you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cooker, so you're only limited by your culinary imagination. And if you're like most of us, you love the accessories. Primo doesn't disappoint here either. They have the Primo Grill rotisserie, the Primo Grill pizza accessory, half pans, full pans, rib racks, and the list goes on. You can get them only at dealers, so find one near you by visiting the website primogrill.com. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Patented technology? Yes. True two-zone cooking capabilities in multiple sizes? Of course. So go to the dealer near you, look at all the ovals that are currently available, and then you pick the one that best fits you. Remember, oval is the difference. PrimoGrill.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram. We'll be back with more Chris Lilly right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
In this portion of the show, being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth. If you have smart speakers in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard integrates with those as well. Visit fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Don't forget about that Fireboard Spark, the instant read meat thermometer, and single-channel Fireboard, all in one. And we are rejoined again by Chris Lilly. So you had mentioned your son's being involved in the restaurant business, and I wanted to kind of tail off the competition stuff and go back into the restaurants. You know, for a few decades, Chris Lilly has been synonymous with Big Bob Gibson's. The brand is you. You are the brand. Did you have to work hard on that, or did it just come easily?
Well, Big Bob Gibson already had a fantastic name, especially in this area in North Alabama. So much tradition. It's been here since 1925. So the knowledge was there, and the recipes and techniques, passed down. It was all there. I just felt like it was my job to spread the word a little bit. Let everybody know what we were doing in Decatur, Alabama. Let everybody know about Big Bob Gibson barbecue and our history. And so it was easy in that respect because I had a story. I had a story to tell. And I think we used our success in competitions and our world championships to, get into TV and get magazine articles and newspaper articles and stuff, and started getting the word about back, when in the world of no social media or anything like that. Yeah, it was hard work, but I had a story, so it made it much easier.
You had kind of preemptively talked about a succession plan to a certain degree. We were talking about competitions there, but you had also said they were taking an active role in the restaurant. I'm asking you to speak for your kids. I don't know what kind of conversations you have between the three of you, but you're a pretty big deal in the live fire industry. So had they ever communicated to you that they felt like they were in a shadow, or there were some pretty big shoes to fill here as they were going to be taking more responsibility?
It's right now they're in a really good position and they're learning the business, and I think they're about that point where they'll start making some decisions on which direction. They've got a lot of different directions they could go. Do they open up more restaurants? Do they start pushing out more barbecue products and things like that? I'm in a great position now, so I can support them. And they're younger guys now. They have the drive. And I'm in a position to support them. Depending on which way they want to go. They've got a great work ethic and good minds, so no telling where we're going to carry this Big Bob Gibson thing.
Do you see yourself ever being a traditionally retired guy having a sweet tea out in the deck somewhere, or will you always be running?
There's no way. There's no way. I've always got to have a project. I've always got to be doing something. I don't see myself retiring. I can see myself pulling back a little bit, although I haven't yet. But I can see myself pulling back a little bit and focusing on other projects and supporting the kids, again, on which direction they want to go. But no, I can't retire. There's no way.
Let me ask you a general business question, nothing barbecue related, but we can focus it on the live fire industry in general. You are both, as I had mentioned, a name and a brand. This is something that I've been trying to get across to folks, and I've been very big on for years, and that's knowing your value. In other words, not doing something for free or in exchange for a free product or a low-paying commission link. Instead, cut a deal, get money, and get that product for free that they were wanting to give you. How did you learn your value as you got going?
Really great question. And I think early on, I didn't really put a high enough value on what I did. I've gotten a lot better at it. And it's sort of a juggling act for me because, you have friends in barbecue and you want to support them. And I will support a lot of my friends and not expect any money. I've got some favorite charity organizations, within the barbecue industry that I'll do stuff for and not expect any money. But you've got to pick and choose. I've got to stay relevant in different areas of barbecue and different parts of the industry. And it's funny, usually when I come on a show, we always start talking about competition first, but I probably view myself as a competition as far as what I do is a very, very small part of my life and what I do. The restaurant is the number one thing. My corporate contacts and corporate travels and caterings and stuff, is a big part of what I do. I'm in a great position now where I say no a whole lot. But I go where I want to go and hang out with the people I want to hang out with. In a lot of cases, it's lucrative. In some cases, it's just where I want to be. And that's a good position to be in your life.
When you look back over the last 15, 20 years, just in barbecue in general or live fire, what's been the biggest one or two evolutions or introductions into this industry that you thought have really changed the game?
Wow. That's tough. That is a really tough question. Right off the top of my head, when I first started cooking, the pellet industry was almost non-existent. That's one cool thing that I've seen over my entire career from the very beginning, and seen the pellet industry explode. So that's one cool thing that has happened. I think the popularity of barbecue. Used to when I travel up to New York, there might have been one or two barbecue restaurants and they both sucked. But now you go up to New York and you get some fantastic barbecue. How about the Texas barbecue thing? Used to the old school and old style of Texas barbecue. And then Texas is almost having a barbecue transformation. And where the old school joints have handed the baton to a lot of these new school barbecue places that still cook old school methods, but have changed techniques and started doing their briskets and other things different. So there's a lot of great new pit masters in Texas. So yeah, that's a few things right there.
Do you think Texas is just really good at beating their chest about how good they are, and everybody else is kind of caught in the background of that room noise?
I think Texas just was sort of in a perfect storm and found a niche on, and I think a lot goes into that. One, the influx of new talent and people that have new chefs that have really tried new things. You look at what the Texas Monthly has done with their top 50. Every few years, and how that has exploded, that it really has defined Texas barbecue and the barbecue joints in that place. It gives the Texans, a list of where to go. It gives me a list of where to go when I go to Texas and, want to try new stuff. So, also the influence of Tex-Mex and, you look at what Ernest is doing at Burnt Bean, and James Beard, Miguel at Valentina's, what he has done. So there's a lot of not only new techniques but also new flavors that have transformed Texas barbecue.
Chris, let's end it on a TV note. I remember having a conversation with John Marcus. It's probably going on 3.5 years ago, right before the pandemic hit. So it probably would have been the fall before the pandemic really hit. And we were talking at that point, but then about 2 years ago, John was inducted into the BBQ Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame, and we were doing a whole big origin story of John Marcus, how he grew up in Ohio and how he came to be this big TV guy and all this stuff. And we were talking about barbecue TV, and within the interview, he specifically mentioned that you singularly were the one that pitched him the idea of barbecue being on TV behind trailers at the Big Apple block party or something like that. If you think back to that, maybe you don't even remember it. How do you see it in your mind, and what was that pitch like to John to gauge his interest?
We developed a friendship. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning on the streets of New York, refueling barbecue pits in the middle of the night. He wasn't working with us then, but he was out, helping a team, and I was there again, paying my dues, refueling in the middle of the night, and that's where we started talking. And from there, he had a passion for learning about barbecue. And we had a lot of conversations, not only about what he did, a producer, writer for The Cosby Show and numerous other shows, comedy writer, sitcoms, and everything else. But we had some great conversations. And at the time, there was no barbecue on TV. And I pitched him a show, and he liked the idea. We wrote the entire show up, sold the show. Back then, it was All-Star Barbecue Showdown, turned into Barbecue Championship TV, and then that sort of morphed into Pitmasters. So really proud of it. John's a dear friend. Still talk to John this day. As a matter of fact, I saw him in New York when I was up there about a month ago. But he did a fantastic job with Pitmasters, and we've had a lot of good times and talked barbecue and got barbecue on TV. Definitely proud of that.
Could we say that had that seminal discussion not have taken place, that maybe barbecue television wouldn't have happened?
I think it would have been a delayed, and I think we were a touch before our time anyway when we rolled out All-Star Barbecue Showdown. It had decent ratings, but it didn't catch on like Barbecue Pitmasters did a few years later. So maybe a few years we rolled it out a few years too soon. I think inevitably, yes, there would have been a barbecue show, but it wouldn't have involved me, and it probably wouldn't have involved John.
There were those 2 seasons or 3 seasons that you were talking about in advance of what ended up being Barbecue Pitmasters, and then that had a run of somewhere towards 11 seasons that really helped lift the industry as a whole, expose this whole thing to a group of people that maybe didn't even know about it. Do you see a time where this perfect storm happens again, or do we chalk this up to that being a golden era of barbecue television that isn't going to be recaptured again?
Television is tough nowadays, because there's so much going to, digital streaming and everything. And I think that's for barbecue, that might be the wave of the future, and less on, syndicated shows and things like that. But we'll see. I think barbecue's got a lot of life in it. It's got a lot of love, a lot of passion. A lot of people still do it, still love to do it. So I think we've got a huge base that we can build off of. I don't think barbecue is going anywhere.
In the backyard, it's as popular as ever. Perhaps it's grown leaps and bounds year after year over the last 10 years, maybe 12 years. We're seeing a lot of griddle cooking showing up almost out of nowhere. I didn't even think that was going to be a thing. And now every manufacturer is racing to get one out to the market freestanding or some type of an insert to a grill that they already make. Are you a fan of flat top cooking?
I like flat top cooking. I will tell you the style that I do a little bit more. I still do most of my flat top cooking over charcoal, turning grill grates over, so I've got the flat top, but I still get the charcoal sear, through the holes and stuff like that. So, but I can still make smash burgers, which I do, and things like that I do on the griddle. No, I have no problem with the griddle cooking. Yeah, you can feed a lot of people off a griddle, and but as far as, I still love charcoal. I love the flavor of charcoal, and so most of my griddle cooking is upside down grill grates over charcoal.
From a trends standpoint, or something that you see, coming down the road here in the near future, maybe by the end of 2023 or at some point in 2024, what do you see catching popularity, or something that's maybe sitting in the background now that really might make an entrance?
Gosh, I don't know, Greg. What do you think? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I thought 2023 was going to be the year that the full-sized electric grill was going to be a thing. Now, what I mean by that is roughly a year ago, Charbroil brought out a full-size electric grill called the Edge, and I thought, wow, here's something for folks that live in apartments, or maybe they're in some type of a confinement where they can't use charcoal or wood or what have you, or pellet cookers for that reason. But electric's okay. This gives you a full-size grill experience, except it's electric, and they're billing it to be something that gets up to 600 degrees in 15 minutes. It can reach 700 degrees, so you have plenty enough heat to do whatever you're going to be doing from a grilling standpoint. And I thought that one entrant was going to now cause a number of other grill manufacturers to bring it to market this year. Well, subsequently, that hasn't happened. But I'm really continuing to champion this. I've heard Napoleon is supposed to be bringing one out, or they have been supposedly rolling one out here over the last handful of months. Weber was going to bring, Weber introduced one, but it was smaller. It had more of a travel size feel to it. I thought that was going to be a full-size one. But the hiccup, or the hurdle, that I'm getting, because I went to the HPB Expo in Louisville a couple months ago and talked to a bunch of the CEOs and owners out there, and I said, do you believe in electric full-size cookers? And to a man, they said yes, but then all of them said it's got to be 220. Otherwise, 110 just isn't going to get the job done. I don't know if they didn't realize that a 110 is already out there and it is fitting the bill, or if 220 is just that much better. But I'm still buying on the fact that there's going to be full-size electric cookers to choose from. Maybe it's going to take another year. What do you think about that?
How about a backyard air fryer with a smoke attachment?
How about Nextgrill makes a smart gas grill with an air fryer attached to it already? Look at you.
There you go, my friend.
Do we need to attach an air fryer to anything outside, or can we just leave that inside and use it sparingly?
A lot of the grill companies are doing the flat top, the griddle attachments, on the side of all the grills and everything else. Why not drop an air fryer? I don't know. With a little smoke intake, little smoke box on the bottom.
Before I release you tonight, Chris Lilly, and I appreciate the time, anything you want to promote or tell us where you're going to be at coming up?
Oh, gosh. I just finished a nice run of events out of town. So I've got a couple of months, or at least 1 month, where I sit around and don't do a whole lot. So, but a couple of things that I'm really excited about this fall is I worked up a relationship with Copper Cane. It's a vineyard out of Napa, and we do a ton of events together. They make some great wines, and we do some cool events like college football. So last year we did Texas, Alabama, and Georgia, Florida. This year we're doing Georgia, Florida. We're going to do Clemson, Notre Dame. So we'll be doing a big tailgate up there. So we'll do about four games, or maybe some concerts. So again, I only go where I want to go, or hang out with the people I want to hang out. So that's another great relationship that I can do. Hang out, drink some good wine at the tailgate. So that's fantastic. Still with Kingsford. Just let them at Memphis in May. We did some fantastic stuff down there. Love what they're doing in the barbecue industry. And again, Yeti, definitely get to go. I was with them last year in Ireland. There's a big grill festival in the middle of August. That is one that I put down every year. And if I get a chance to go, maybe slip back over to Ireland this year. So got some fun stuff coming up. Be traveling around. So look for me anywhere and everywhere.
Chris, you said it all, and what a fabulous honor for me to have you back on as we catch up here. And it has truly been my pleasure over these last 15, 16 years to do these interviews and to count you as a live fire friend and friend of the show, which I certainly appreciate. So once again, thank you very much for all the time you've given to the show, and let's do it again before 4 years elapses again.
All you got to do is ask, my friend.
All right, appreciate it. There he is, Chris Lilly right there. By the way, if you didn't know, you can go to the Big Bob Gibson's website at bigbobgibson.com, or you can follow Chris socially at Chris Lilly BBQ. And he's on Instagram and Twitter as well. So if you are not following him, go ahead and give him a follow so you can see what he's up to, posting a lot of great content through what was going on this past weekend out there in Memphis as well. So great. Well, really appreciate that conversation with Chris. Again, bigbobgibson.com is the website, or follow him socially at Chris Lilly BBQ on social media handles. We will wrap the first hour coming back, so stick around. If you have any reaction to that interview, go ahead and email me, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com, because that is working again. That email is working. And by the way, if you're perusing the new website, the Hall of Fame portion, the guest Hall of Fame portion, is under construction. We're getting that rectified probably as we speak. That should be up and running by tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. So, again, if you have any reaction to Chris Lilly, hit me up on the instant chat over on YouTube or Facebook, or shoot me an email, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. And we'll be back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Chris Lilly for joining us for the past two segments, bigbobgibson.com, or follow Chris socially at Chris Lilly BBQ on Instagram or Twitter, or wherever you follow people socially. One of the many things that were interesting and that I wanted to react to as we were tying up the Memphis in May recap and conversation, I asked him if he thought that if Tom Lee Park was going to be a sustainable option for the continuance of Memphis in May competitions going forward. And I don't know if you were paying attention or not. He said 50-50 if that location was going to be good, as in maybe they would have to find another location. But then he also said 50-50 on if it was going to continue or not.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Again, don't know if you had the ears keen, but he did say he was questioning whether or not the ongoing event would actually happen. There's a lot of politicking going on between the International Festival, between the parks people and the city. I know the mayor was getting involved when I was trying to chase people down for why is there an $8,000 non-refundable deposit for teams and barbecue vendors. Now, the Parks Department did return answers to me without issue. The Memphis in May International Festival never returned. That's not true. They returned one email, and then on subsequent follow-ups to get more information and to clarify, they gave no responses back when I asked them how they came up with picking the teams that they picked, because there were a lot of big teams left out. How did they arrive on these decisions? No answer back. Of course, I did not ask for reaction from the city, like the governor, the mayor, and I don't care about that. This is some pretty big deal. So Chris Lilly questioning whether or not Memphis in May in general will be back. 50-50. Interesting. We're going to refresh libations, and then we will point to the second hour. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show right here on the BBQ Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Stover, the barbecue hunk. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Have a hunky day.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet for wieners.
Oh, listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the BBQ Central Show. We do this show live every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. The show is also being recorded, so if you're just tuning in now and you missed the first hour with Chris Lilly, don't worry about it. The podcast will be released a little bit later this evening. The second hour will be released on Thursday, and we'll talk to you about Friday here in just 1 second. Coming up on the second hour of the show, or should I say still to come, on the show this evening, the Embedded Correspondents will be joining me for their fourth Tuesday of the month in the second hour visits. Both 14 and 35 past, or should we say, will carry the balance of the second hour. The show is generated and brought to you from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
We say good evening to those of you watching the show tonight through one of our video streaming platform partners, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. You can also watch the show on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. There seems to be a number of people in the instant chat as well. There is a YouTube poll question of the week that we can update you on, and it's biting back fairly quickly. I asked, is attending Memphis in May Barbecue Festival on your bucket list? And now 78% of you are saying yes. But 22% of you are saying no. Closer than I thought. I figure live fire folks have a majority interest in going. Not saying that 78% isn't a majority. However, I thought it would be more into the mid-80s, potentially 90% that folks would want to attend a Memphis in May, or it being on their bucket list at least. But it is a little bit closer than I anticipated. 78% saying yes, and 22% saying no. Got this in the instant chat from Living a Rogue Life. So, A, I'm questioning if in any way if this person is related to our pal Doug Scheiding, because he is the Rogue Cookers head cook. But we'll figure that out later. The question is, Greg, is the rumor true that you don't want to be in the Barbecue Hall of Fame? A, I don't know if that's a rumor that I don't want to be in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. What's true is this, living a rogue life. In the end, it does not matter to me if I end up in the Barbecue Hall of Fame or not, number one. As I said a couple weeks ago, I am a person that is competitive by nature. What does that mean? It means that I know every year that we have been told how this Barbecue Hall of Fame works, the first step to anybody potentially getting into the Barbecue Hall of Fame is being nominated. Your name has to be nominated. You got to go through the nomination process. That name's put in a hopper, and then they bring your name up during the name nomination decision calls that they have. And my name has never made it over. It's made it out of the big pool, but it's never made it over the fence onto the finals list. Does that matter to me in the end? No. But because I'm competitive, I know I'm in there. What does that mean? I have a chance. Well, if I have a chance, then that means I want to win. So if winning means I'm in the Barbecue Hall of Fame, well then yeah, of course, because I know I'm in there. I'm nominated multiple times every year. I just never seem to get through the first round of gatekeepers to get on the finals list. And then, the finals list, I got a lot of people that I know that would be voting that I feel probably would vote for me, maybe with one of their 4 votes. Maybe they wouldn't. But I know a lot of those people that are the voting public for the Hall of Fame right now. It's the living members of the Hall of Fame. That's who votes. And I know a lot of them, almost all of them. So I would feel pretty good that if I got on the finalists list, I would potentially make it in. But in the end, do I care? Like, do I want? To answer your question, is there a rumor, or is the rumor true that I don't want to be in the Barbecue Hall of Fame? No, that's not true. What's true is it doesn't matter to me, number one. And number two, if I get in, it'll be great. But it doesn't matter to me. It matters to some people. For instance, second Tuesday of the month, regular guest, Meathead Goldwyn. It mattered to him. He was lobbying. He wanted to get in. He was sending his resume to any and everybody that would take it. He was finding who were the voting members of the Hall of Fame and lobbying them. It mattered to Meathead that much, where he would put in that effort. I am the exact opposite of Meathead. It does not matter to me that much. I will put in zero effort to try and lobby myself to get into anything ever. I'm either getting in because you want me there or I'm not. And then I will either be happy that I'm in or it won't matter to me that I'm not in. The whole goal in the Hall of Fame thing was to make sure it was as transparent and open as possible, because it wasn't. And I hammered and hammered and hammered, and then it became the way it is today. Is that because of me? Maybe in part, but it also lends legitimacy. You can have the normal Hall of Fame arguments at this point. You know the process. It's ever changing. Improvements are trying to be made, whether you like it or not. These are the arguments we want to have, not, well, how are these names even picked? Who's voting? What's the process? Well, nobody knew any of that before. So that was the only goal in this for me, was to lend transparency or demand transparency to this. Whether I make it in or not is irrelevant. But God, I want to get in. Hey, coming up on the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, episode 283, taking you back to May 22nd in 2012, where you would find me having a conversation with one Melissa Cookston from Yazoo's Delta Q, the owner of Memphis Barbecue Company, the pitmaster of Yazoo's Delta Q. And back then we were talking about Yazoo's winning the overall grand championship at the 2012 Memphis In May Barbecue Championship. Their second overall world title at that point. I believe they finished with 2. And we also covered what all goes into that event. And there is plenty that needs to happen before the actual cooking starts, as we also found out from Chris Lilly last hour. So if you aren't familiar with what all is needed to get ready to cook, then you will want to make sure you check out this show Friday. By the way, I don't know if you heard it or not.
A BBQ Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that makes the most live fire breaking news across the world. Oh, across the nation. Nay, the globe. I screwed up my own lines. I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was a story released towards the end of last week announcing Melissa Cookston's retirement from Competition Barbecue. Say it ain't so.
Get that free stuff out of here.
So the winningest woman in Competition Barbecue is calling it a career. And now it looks like I'm going to have to reach out to Melissa, see if she wants to come back on the show and talk about the career that was. And, of course, what she's looking to do moving forward. But in her prime, I don't even know what that means in Competition Barbecue because Johnny Trigg was at Memphis in May. So, I mean, if we're talking about prime, Johnny Trigg is still in his prime at competitions, for crying out loud. Blues Hog had him out there. Class move, by the way. Tim and Brad, that was class. So I don't know what it means to say when somebody was in there hated, but if you don't know Yazoo's Delta Q, they did a lot of winning. They were whole hog specialists. They won the hog category a lot. They won the overall world title a lot. They did a lot of Memphis Barbecue Network cooking. They were Team of the Year for Memphis Barbecue Network and all piloted by Melissa Cookston. So she made an announcement. There were some TV interviews and stuff done as well saying that she was calling it a career after this past weekend. So we should catch up with her and see what's going on. By the way, before we get out and meet up with the embedded correspondents, the next All-Star Barbecue Series event that is partnering with Famous Dave and the World Food Championships is going to be June 3rd, 2023 in El Paso, Texas. So not this coming weekend, but that following weekend, I believe. The next All-Star Barbecue Series event, June 3rd in El Paso, Texas. Hopefully Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue, who's in El Paso, Texas, is signed up and is one of those 6 teams competing. For more information on this event or to register at an upcoming event, go to famousdaves.com/All-Star BBQ Challenge. This could be a question for the embedded correspondents. Guy, the Cooking Sam weighing in. Who has a better resting angry face, Melissa Cookston or Johnny Trigg? Guy, that could be the question of 2023. The embedded correspondents are ready. However, I need to tell you about my pal Sterling Ball and the big gang over at Big Papa Smokers. What do we love about Big Papa Smokers? We love that everything's been hand-selected by Sterling himself. We love the rubs and the seasonings. That's right. 13 perfectly balanced flavors transforming ordinary meals into extraordinary meals. They own Granny's barbecue sauce, too, so if you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everybody or you're tired of what's existing out there currently in the marketplace, try Granny's sauce, a great sauce all by itself. Also, great to trick out. Use it as a base sauce and then add your own little touches. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker because Big Papa Smokers happens to be the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. If you are a backyard grilling enthusiast who's looking for durable and versatile cookers, but you're not sure which one you need or might want, call them. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop the website at bigpopsmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. And we'll be back with the embedded correspondents right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
The YouTube chat is hot this evening. It's one of the best chats that I have seen, and I don't really pay too much attention to it. Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue. I'm renting out my grandfather's crop dusting plane, and I'm flying around the world with a banner behind it that reads, and I quote, "I don't know who needs to read this, but Greg Rempe belongs in the Barbecue Hall of Fame." I can answer who needs to read that. Nobody. Nobody needs to read it because nobody cares that I'm in or not in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And by the way, Joe, do you have to rent your grandfather's crop dusting plane, or can you just get in the crop dusting plane and take off? And he might not be any of the wiser. I'm just wondering out loud. Don't pay for stuff that you don't have to pay for. Remember, there's a rule number 3 of the show, which states if it's free, it's me. Rule number 3, Joe. Rule number 3. All right, it's this time of the month where we join our pals, Doug Scheiding, John Solberg, and Rusty Monson, better known as the Embedded Correspondents. And there's Doug Scheiding there to the right of me, the longest-running correspondent. John Solberg's below me from Michigan. And there's good old Rusty Monson from the great city of Utah, catty corner and bottom right. So plenty of stuff going on here this evening. There's so many things that have changed over the course of 8 hours. I've added stuff. There's things that I couldn't even add in. There's 2 bona fide competitors here on this. John's also a competitor, but I'm sure he would deny it more than he would admit it. But certainly Doug and Rusty are. There's a guy. Don't you always love these stories? There's a guy that is here in Cleveland. I will mention the company by name, although they are not affiliated with the show at all, but they are a high purveyor of quality meats called Mr. Whose phone is that?
Sorry, I turned it over.
Dog! Next time you're fired. There is a purveyor of quality meats here in Cleveland called Mr. Brisket. Hank Kornblatt is the owner, and he's got a worker out there named Aaron Huntelman. You know Aaron Huntelman from Go Big or Go Barbecue out here in Eastlake, Ohio, a big Traeger fan, and Traeger shits on him all the time, but we won't talk about that. So he has decided to put an offering out to the competition world. And we'll get to the Assurity questions here because I know you're all dying to start going yes or no. Rusty, let's start with you. If I told you right now you could get your hands on 12 trimmed chicken thighs, competition trim, all weighed out, all 6 ounces or all 7 ounces, the knuckles off, the veins out, the oyster, the skin's flipped over and done all that bullshit to it, and it's a nice pillow bite-through thing, would you buy that, or do you think that's bullshit and cheating?
I would not buy it because chicken is super easy for me.
But everybody complains about chicken. It's so long, and you got to do this and that and the other thing.
Because they don't do it right. That's why. They don't understand that you don't have to go crazy on it. It's not that complicated. They trim all the fat off. You don't need to trim the fat off. You just need to cook it properly. You don't have to get all the gizmos off, just some fat, like plugs and different things like that. It's not that hard. You know, you chop off the bone, boom, boom. You get all that fat pockets out. You take the skin and you basically you just trim the skin up. You don't take the fat off because you'll cook it long enough for that fat to melt and it makes it juicy inside. It's a very simple process. In fact, I like cooking. I'd rather trim a chicken than I would brisket or pork.
Would you think less? Let's say I was competing in the stall next to you, and I went to Mr. Brisket and I bought my chickens from Aaron and Hank. Would you think less of me, or that I was somehow cheating because I didn't learn how to trim my chicken, or that's part of the pitmaster way?
First of all, if I turned to my right and you were in the booth next to me, it'd be the best day of my whole life. I would think that would be the funniest thing.
It could happen, Rusty. It could happen.
Secondly, no, I wouldn't touch you at all, man. Do you. I'm still going to whoop your ass. It don't matter to me.
All right. Doug, what do you think about this potential game-changing product into the competition market? Pre-trimmed competition chicken.
Yeah, of course, in Texas, it'd have to be the half chickens, but I am fairly particular. If you know me, you know me. I'm particular of how I do things, and I would want to do it myself.
Would you think it's cheating if I bought it and was competing next to you?
No, there's a guy, Andy Lugo, down here who was trimming briskets for all kinds of competition cooks, and I never really thought much of it. I mean, whatever. Go ahead and do it.
And people are paying him to trim the briskets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How much does he get to trim a brisket, do you think?
I don't even know what the cost is, but
Wow.
yeah, it never really bothered me at all. He started a business doing that, left the meat market and started doing that, and trimming briskets for like meatloafs for competition cooks.
Oh, great. I love that. John, what do you think about trimmed competition chicken showing up at your door ready to cook at an event?
I'm ready to buy it to cook at home.
Really?
I think it's great. Yeah, I have, believe it or not, trimmed a butt ton of competition thighs, a lot of them, and I'm like, and people around my family love it when I cook competition chicken for them. I don't like to go through all that trimming, or I got to take Rusty's class, one or the other. I'd ship that stuff right to my door. I'd take it to the competition. I think it's great. I hope he does well with it.
And you don't think I would be cheating if I brought it to the competition, or somehow that makes me less of a pit master, or I'm not learning what I need to learn?
Not at all. It's no different than fire management or buying a rub or anything else. Look at all those things that we called that once upon a time. If you didn't throw logs, you weren't a pit master once upon a time.
Go ahead, Doug.
I've seen it at KCBS events. There's people that go around and put the greenery in boxes for people. There's no difference in that. That's, so to me, it's the same.
I'm finding out things that I never even knew about tonight. Wow. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Some guys making money trimming briskets for other people. I can't wait to go on Facebook after the show is over. I took up with a couple folks on this whole chicken post on Facebook, and they were really giving it to me. And now I can just turn right around and say, okay, well, make sure you go give this guy the what for, because he's trimming everybody's brisket in Texas. And then there's teams that go around making your boxes at KCBS Turning. So, yeah, this is enlightening, to say the least. I didn't know that was nonsense going on down there. All right, but here's new nonsense, the 100% Assurity question. John, we'll start with you here this evening from Michigan. Between the two, you would rather have an electric grill versus a battery-powered grill?
No, 100% no.
Oh.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Rusty, you would rather have an electric grill versus a battery-powered grill?
Also no.
Oh.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Douglas?
Until the battery runs out, no. No.
Get that big stuff out of here.
I would rather have an electric grill, yes. 100%. Why not? Next question, Doug. You are fully aware of this name. No liars. I can see all of you, so no lying. You are fully aware of this name. Roger Mooking.
The answer is yes, related to his Man Fire Food show.
Rusty.
Yeah, he's the dude on the cooking channel, right?
You vaguely can pull that guy off, and you'd never heard of Pat LaFrieda before in your life?
I don't know who Pat LaFrieda is still.
My God. John, be honest. You are fully aware of this name, Roger Mooking.
100% no.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Until I saw the bio on the finalists, 100% no.
Get that big stuff out of here.
I looked at the name. I was like, who's that? I knew 9 out of 10 names without having to look at anything. And I was like, who's that? So were you like that, John? Were you like, who's that?
Yeah, I had to go hit the Google box, like, who the heck is that guy? And then I had some vague, like, oh, I remember something about that show, but I'm like, no, I was like, I never would have, like, where did that come from was the first thing that crossed my mind.
Indeed. All right, we'll go to Rusty. If you had access to it, you would try the lava on steak trend that I'm seeing on Instagram right now.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds pretty badass. So yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wrong one.
Thumbs up.
It appears you have to have really high heat tongs because there's a container that has lava and there's a raw steak, and you pour the lava over the steak, and that's how it cooks. You want to do that?
That sounds awesome, man.
All right.
Yeah, I want to do
Rusty is doubling in. Very good. Just so everybody's aware of what that was, I explained it to Rusty. Doug, are you in on this? Yes or no?
The only time I've seen it is on John's Instagram, and no way I don't mix tartar with crusty steak.
John, if you had access to it, you would try the lava on steak trend that I'm seeing on Instagram right now.
I would not. I absolutely, it freaks me out. There's no way.
Yeah. I can almost make this a majority, but Rusty's holding out. No, never. No, never. Not only no, never, but I think the only video of somebody doing this is the one that John was sharing, because I had seen it a number of other times across various years. This person put zero effort into even trying to cook it right. This thing was as bad of a cooked steak as I have ever seen. Charred to death. Now, look, I understand whatever he's putting on top of that is probably 7. Well, how hot is lava, Doug? You're smart.
Gosh, it's got to be thousands of degrees.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know how you're going to cook it, but he's doing it right. He's trending, so good for him. He's been mentioned on this show, or her, so good for you guys. We go to the next question. John, back to you. The general public thinks that the big grill companies make lots of money each year.
100% yes.
Rusty.
It's 570 degrees, by the way. Could reach up to 2,000 degrees. That's how hot lava is.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. The answer is yes.
Doug, the general public thinks that big grill companies make a lot of money every year.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And to make it a majority, I say yes as well. Yes. Of course, we know better. And the last question of the evening. We'll start with Doug. Doug, as a human man, you are disgusted by the fact that when you walk into a public restroom and saunter up to the urinal, there is so much pee on the floor.
Abso-frickin-lutely, and there's no better example than in airports.
John, as a human man, you are disgusted by the fact that when you walk into a public restroom and saunter up to the urinal, there is so much pee on the floor.
Absolutely disgusted by it. And to follow up with Doug, for years as a traveler, my luggage never came back into my house and stayed in the garage because I was in and out of airports.
Yeah. Wow. Rusty, you are a human man. Are you disgusted, too, by the fact that when you walk into public restrooms and saunter to the urinal, there is so much pee on the floor?
As a human man, I can deal with it because I'm not a bitch.
Wow. I thought Positive Rusty was back, but Man Rusty is in full effect. I will go against Man Rusty and agree with the other guys. It's deplorable. I am disgusted as a human man, a male man, that, and now look, so I've seen it in the aforementioned airports. However, as you guys well know, I am also travel volleyball dad, and I show up in convention centers all across this great land east of the Mississippi, and it appears that no other male besides me can hang their pecker into the urinal. They do it on the fucking floor. I'm standing in piss. Like, I can't figure out what's more disgusting, the cat pissing on my electronics or me standing in piss. Like, what the hell is going on in the bathroom? By the way, the smartest person ever on the face of the earth, as we stay with the piss talk here for about 35 more seconds, whoever invented the splash dragon, you know what the splash dragon is? It's the thing that goes in the urinal. You can pee into it as hard as you want, and it does not cast back on you or your shirt or your pants, making you look like a pathetic slob. Not as much of a slob as the guys that are pissing on the floor, obviously, but a little less of a slob than those folks. But whoever came up with that, what a magician. Good for him. He's probably making millions of dollars. we're very happy for him. All right, so that's it for the embedded correspondence and the 100% Assurity questions. We do have a YouTube poll question of the week we should get out of the way as well. Rusty, attending a Memphis in May is a barbecue bucket list item.
Yeah, it's actually the number one thing on my list.
I thought you went a couple of years ago.
I was supposed to. I didn't end up going because I don't know why. I can't remember, but it's number one.
Doug, you were there this past weekend. However, if we can take ourselves out of last weekend, Memphis in May was a bucket list item for you.
Yes, it was. That was actually my second time.
Oh,
so the first time I went, because it was a bucket list. Yes.
John, Memphis in May is a bucket list item for you, or was a bucket list item for you?
It was, and I don't know if you recall, but after the first time I went, I called you and said it needs to be on your bucket list as well.
I don't remember that.
That
I thought you said there's no way I'm ever going back there again. Now get me the hell out of here. That wasn't you?
Well, I said that too. But going there, it's like you got it's put it on the list. Put it on the list.
All right, so let's go ahead and take up with that just for a second, then we'll get to who we think should be going into the Barbecue Hall of Fame tomorrow. Remember, 3 p.m. exclusive show here on the BBQ Central Show.
We'll do it live.
3 p.m. Eastern, Bill. We'll do it live tomorrow, and we'll find out who is going to be in the 2023 class for the Barbecue Hall of Fame. Doug, you had mentioned that I should be attending Memphis in May next year. So as having done it now 2 times, what are the wins for me? So we know, I'm not a real big travel guy. And to me, there's got to be ROI. So what are the wins for me to go, in your opinion?
And the way you would schedule interviews and have a packed day of different interviews with all of these people. Heck, I just go, and a lot of times there's the public area and then there's the private area. You go into the private area, like I went in and Malcolm was just sitting there, and I, got 10 minutes with Malcolm, Heath Riles, Tuffy Stone, France, and like when I went to Blues Hog, there was Johnny Trigg and his wife sitting down there. So you can just walk around to each of the different booths and see barbecue legends left and right. Unlike, I think, the American Royal has a lot of different teams, but a lot of the barbecue royalty goes to Memphis in May, and Jack is going to be hit or miss because you've got to be invited to get there. So some years maybe so, and then Houston Rodeo is just Rodeo Gras. So,
what about from a business standpoint? If I'm going to go somewhere, I want the potential for business to transact. Is there business availability for me there, or do you think it's just for interviews?
Actually, the Home Depot tent where I was at would be a good place to fish a little bit. I mean, there was Gosney, Next Grill, Oklahoma Joe's was there, Brio, or however you say it, Masterbuilt. I mean, we were all in one big, large area together, so presenting and doing demos. So that would actually be a good place for you because there were VPs of marketing or North American directors, CEOs of all the different companies.
John, what
PK
do you think?
was there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A lot of the big names there. What do you think the wins are to go, John?
For you and your business, I don't know. For me, I remember finally leaving the booth, and Robert Sierra of an SNS pit crew drugged me out of the booth and took me, and it's the land of the giants, kind of mirroring what Doug said. You walk through the booths and you're just looking around, and you're like everybody's there. That's the way I feel about it. It's emotionally, as a barbecue person, it's a great experience. You are walking down the aisle in a land of the giants. That's the only way I can describe it.
Rusty, why do you want to go? Do you want to go compete, or do you want to go catch on with a team and hang, or what's your thought?
That's what's cool about it is I wouldn't do both. I'd love to compete in it. It's super intimidating. But I'd love just to go and hang out and talk to people and, meet some people that I've never met face to face and just soak it all in. It just seems like an extremely fun event. And I want to go so bad, and I'll get there for sure, whether I go to compete, which is hopefully how I go. But if not, just to go bum around and bother people,
I got an email from Jason in New Jersey. It says, "Dear future Barbecue Hall of Famer Greg," yet to be determined. Big fan, big fan. Been listening for almost 10 years. I have a question for you and your roundtable of barbecue experts you call the embedded correspondents. In the last few months, I've heard and seen a lot about boating your brisket. Most recently on Chud's barbecue video I checked out after he was a guest on your show. My question is, what's the deal with this? Is it the latest fad, a new way of doing an old trick? Or is this the next great method/tip that will evaluate everyone's barbecue game? Or, I'm sorry, elevate everybody's barbecue game. And if so, what's the proper way to do it? Unless I'm missing something, and I'm sure I am because I've barely looked into it. How is it different than putting your meat in an aluminum pan? Since you and you alone developed the mayo as brisket binder method, I turn to you for your amazing team for answers. Thank you in advance for your considered response. I'll be listening. Jason from New Jersey. Well, first of all, I'm happy that Jason has pointed out the fact that I am the one that started the mayo as a binder for brisket trend. So that is continuing to proliferate across the news. Whether it's accurate or not, we can argue about that later. What do you think about the boat method, John?
I don't have an opinion. I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to cook my brisket in a pan, but I think the analogy is very similar. So I don't get it either. I'm not in the camp. Somebody has to convince me.
What about you, Rusty? You into the foil boat method that Chud does?
Yeah, it's really cool. The main purpose of it is to maintain the bark and keep that integrity there. Also, the foil boat underneath it allows it to give that moisture that you want in a wrap. So you're doing both. So you're exposing the part that's not going to burn because it's the fat part, and the rest is getting soaked up in the juice that's below. But you're also getting that nice bark on the top, getting that additional smoke in, what little there may be at that time. So it's a little bit of flavor with the integrity of the bark, and it makes it more moist.
Doug, are you into foil boating?
It's something that I would probably try at some point, but I think you can get the same thing by doing the Texas crutch, which is basically wrapping. I'd probably be less likely to put it in a pan as to wrapping it all nice and tight for a steaming effect. But if you want to get the bark, let it rest and then put it back on for 30 minutes and you're good to go.
Yeah, I would say, Jason, and I'm no expert from a brisket cook standpoint, but as I see Chud's boat method, or what was derived as he was at Leroy and Lewis, and now he's kind of made famous, the biggest difference between that and putting it in a aluminum pan is, as long as you're not covering the aluminum pan with foil, that's obviously going to affect the bark build on there. But otherwise, I don't know if there's a huge. I mean, Rusty, would you say there's a big difference if you put it in a foil pan versus putting the foil around it? Is there like the edges affecting the way the air is blasting over the brisket at that point?
You would have to put more juice in the pan portion of it because the edges will burn. So the foil boat will actually go over the side edges. In a pellet smoker, this is actually a pretty effective way to really maximize all that. But yeah, you want to, when you do the boat, it comes up over the edges. If you don't, then you have to put the liquid that goes above the edges, or they'll crisp up and they will be really hard bits.
All right. So, Jason, hopefully that helps you. And now we can get to where we want to go here this evening, which is putting two lists together. First, we are going to review the 10 finalists, and we have to pick who we think is going to be voted in tomorrow. Not who we personally want, but who we think the Hall of Fame members have voted for. And then we will each reveal our own personal list of 4 people that we would like to see go in. So without any further ado, let's go to Doug. Doug, who do you think is being put in tomorrow? In no particular order.
Actually, I'm putting it in particular order.
All right.
On what I think is the most likely. The first name on my list is Flora Payne.
Mm-hmm. You want to explain why?
Well, she's been on a couple of years, and then her past is very similar to Desiree Robinson, if I'm getting the name right.
Yep.
So I think that and that was 2 years ago. So, in a way, 2 years too late. But anyway, Dave Raymond as number 2.
All right. Number 3?
Byron Chisholm.
Bad Byron. Byron's butt rub.
Yeah.
And your 4th?
Much to everyone's liking, and I'm sure this person is going to be on everybody's list. And very similar to Guy Fieri, Roger Mooking is going to be voted in.
Wow. Look, I don't know who's going in tomorrow, but if Roger Mooking gets in, I will eat my hat. I don't have a hat, so I'll go buy one, and then I will eat it next week. That's how confident I am of that. But we'll see.
Okay.
So Doug thinks Flora Payne, Dave Raymond, Byron Chisholm, and Roger Mooking are going to go in. John, who are your 4 that you think are going to be voted in tomorrow?
I think are going to be voted in?
Yeah, not who you want,
start with,
who you think.
Correct.
Yeah.
Who I think the judges are going to select.
Yes.
I'm going to start out with Byron Chisholm.
Okay.
You know, look back in the early 2000s, he was smoking hot there before the butt rub. I'm going to go with Steve Grady, just because who doesn't want to go there and have some barbecue? Of course, Florona Payne, Miss Payne, it's time for her to go in. And I'm going to go with Darren Worth.
All right. Any backup on those choices, or are they all just standing alone?
They're standing alone. I mean, that's where we're going to go. And if Mooking goes in, I'll eat a hat with you. We'll do it on social media. We'll boat it, and then we'll eat it.
We'll trend it. Rusty, who do you think the committee is, or the voting members are voting in tomorrow?
Darren Worth, because if they don't, they need to. I don't even think live with themselves at this point. Dave Raymond, I think, would go in, just because he's Dave Raymond. I think Byron finally gets in this time, just because he should, and I also think that Steve Grady finally gets nodded into that one as well.
All right. So, Doug, I have to say, I'm a little surprised. You have no Darren Worth on your list. They think you don't think the crowd is ready to put him in?
No, I think he's kind of he rubs. In my personal opinion,
yeah,
I think he rubs some people. Is a little off-putting to some people.
Really? Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now it's my list. So I'm going to agree with Byron Chisholm. I'm going to agree with Dave Raymond. See, like half the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are at least 1 or 2, if not more, on the finals list. And if my mind is telling, so that means I think Darren Worth is also going to get voted in. And then my last one is going to be Flora Payne. So that means, let's see. So my picks are everybody but Dave Raymond. Everybody is a returning finalist. My gut is that at least for the next couple of years, if we see a list that has half or more than half returning people on that list, there's a really good chance that those people are probably going to get voted in. So new blood can make it over the hump. So we'll see. All right. So we have some discrepancies here. Does anybody want to agree with anybody else here to get a finals list? Do we want to take anybody off? John?
Everybody seemed to be rolling with Dave Raymond, but me, correct?
You had Darren and Flora.
Yep.
And Steve and Byron.
Correct.
Yes.
If I'm not willing to give up any of my picks to make majority here. Nope. I mean, if Dave Raymond gets in the first round, it maybe belongs in one of the greatest businessmen's Hall of Fame, not necessarily the Barbecue Hall of Fame.
Rusty, you want to give up looks like you would be having to switch out a Steve Grady for a Flora Payne.
If I'm mistaken, Grady's been doing it longer. Am I right? It's been like 30 years. I think he's just been doing that same place for 30
I think Flora Payne's.
I think it's the other way.
Doing at
It's
least,
the other way.
Yeah, Flora Payne. So remember,
yourself.
there's a line of similarity between Flora Payne and Desiree Robinson from Cozy Corner, where the husbands started the business and then they died, and then the wives stepped in and have continued the business ongoing.
But did the wives do it and then Guy and Steve Grady step in? Because that's important.
No, Steve Grady started it, of course.
That was a joke. It was a dumb one. I'm gonna, I go Flora. I don't care. I go Flora.
Yeah,
I'm down for it.
Flora
That's cool.
Payne and Doug. So Doug was Flora Payne and Dave Raymond and Byron Chisholm and Roger Mooking. Do you want to switch out Roger for Darren?
I'll switch out Roger for Darren or Steve Grady. Byron, I think we were unanimous on Byron. All four of us picked Byron.
Yeah. So like
Chisholm.
if you would need to drop out Roger for Darren, and then you would match me and Rusty. And that would give us a majority.
No.
John is unwilling.
John
is unrelenting, but we'll be a quorum without him.
John, yeah. So if I traded out Roger for Darren, that would be 4 for Darren.
Yes.
So okay, I'll do that.
All right. So most of us think that tomorrow you will see these people voted in no particular order: Darren Worth, Dave Raymond, Sweet Baby Ray, Byron Chisholm, Byron's butt rub, and Flora Payne, restaurateur. We will see tomorrow. Now, John thinks most of what we said is accurate, except he's going Steve Grady. And were you Darren Worth at the end, John? Yeah.
100% Darren Worth from the beginning.
Okay. So John is just a Steve Grady away from joining us. So he would have to put in Sweet Baby Ray in advance of Steve Grady. No, John? No?
I mean, hey, for the sake of the argument, sure, I'll go ahead and side with you guys. Even I don't believe he's going to make it in the first round.
You don't have to. All right.
Then I'm going to hold. I'm going to stand pat. And I'm going to be the outlier.
John is going to be the outlier, thinking that Steve Grady is going to be the one voted in over who we think Dave Raymond. Again, these are who we think that the voters are going to put in. And now we can let it fly with a list of who we want to see go in. All individual lists. We're not coming to any type of majority, quorum, or otherwise. And we will go to Doug, your list of who you would like to see go in.
Okay, I'll start off with Flora Payne again.
All right. Look at you being consistent.
Next on my list is Darren Worth, the GOAT.
All right. The GOAT. The bristly barbecue competitor.
He's a take it or leave it guy. Take it or leave it. So I like Darren a lot, obviously. But I am going to go with Fast Eddie Morton.
Really? Right. Love Fast Eddie.
Joseph Traeger got in, so Fast Eddie should be in as well in my book.
Last one?
And I'm going to go with I can understand the Steve Grady, but I'm going to go with the sentimental pick, Malcolm Reed.
All right. Next. Rusty, your list of who you want to go in tomorrow.
First of all, David Close needs to go in. The guy's the greatest pitmaster that ever, or pit maker of all time.
Preach, Rusty, preach.
He turned an airplane into a smoker. The guy is a genius, and he's been on Anthony Bourdain's whatever show, and fantastic character and a great pit builder. In fact, I think Paul Kirkwood's nice. Also, then I'm going to go with Donnie Teal. Of course, I got to represent my food truck people. Also a great competitor, so I want to be a Donnie Teal one day. And then Darren Worth for sure is someone I want to see go in. That needs to happen. And Malcolm Reed, that would be cool as hell.
2 for Malcolm. Wow. Next happens to be the guy from Michigan. John, who do you want to see go in?
Flora Payne, starting my list.
All right.
100%. Steve Grady, he's staying on my list.
All right.
Darren Worth, because I don't think there's anyone more deserving of the title on the planet, more than likely, from the comp side. And I'm rolling with Rusty on Dave Close because he's made a smoker out of an airplane.
Yeah.
And he made a space shuttle, and it's
unbelievable.
Dave Close. He's earned a spot.
All right, these are who I want to go in no particular order. Believe it or not, 75% of us agree on this. Dave Close. I had a Dave Close offset pit for 10 years. It was the first offset pit that I ever had. I was lucky enough to cut my teeth on an offset cooker of that caliber. And I got it for free because some guy used to just collect cookers like some people collect fast cars or women. And I waited for him to collect enough cookers. And I said, hey, you don't use that Close anymore. Can I have it? And he's like, yeah, just come down and get it. And that's how I got my 42-inch offset Close pit. And it was a fabulous cooker. Next one for me is Fast Eddie. I love Fast Eddie. I love Fast Eddie for many reasons. Fast Eddie, John, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I apologize. Do you recall Fast Eddie being in the Guest Hall of Fame? Was he in the 2018 class, maybe? Do you know?
I don't believe he is.
Stop it. That's for another show. But the answer is no.
No? Oh, all right. The point is, he has been a long contributing member to my show. He has done a lot for the industry. He's done a substantial amount for pellet cooking and the evolution of that. So just on that alone, and he was a fairly successful competition cook too. I would like to see Fast Eddie go in. So Dave Close, Fast Eddie. Then I would like to see Darren Worth go in, of course. We agree on that. And then I would like to see Sweet Baby Ray go in. First time in. But man, oh man, this guy is... Oh, well, I hate to say it. Doug, you're fired. Okay, goodbye, Doug.
Amber Alert. I
Tornado
can't help
coming?
that. Yeah.
Amber Alert. Somebody's looking
See if your
for the
kids-
silence button on Doug's phone. We can't find it. The Amber Alert's out for Doug's silence the phone button. I think Dave Raymond should be in easily. Outside of being a corporate sauce, I get it. It's corporate now, but before all the buyings and the sellings of Dave Raymond sauce, like Sweet Baby Ray's. Show of hands. No, let's not do that. Quickly, let's go around. In a pinch, Doug, you will eat Sweet Baby Ray sauce. Oh, sorry.
That's exactly what I thought of that.
Okay.
No.
Wow, in a pinch. Doug, Rusty, in a pinch, you will use Sweet Baby Ray sauce.
Absolutely. I think it's great. Delicious.
John, in a pinch, you will use Sweet Baby Ray sauce.
It is 100% always in my home. 100% all the time. I walk right upstairs to get it. Hey, Doug, it's the most familiar sauce in the world. And
Stand by.
everybody loves it.
I understand.
It's
so
like,
I had the chance to use it earlier this month,
I'm
and
not
I said
arguing the-
no. I said no.
I know
It's
people use it
always
on
in my house.
the competition trail and kill it with it. I think it's the
Do they
best
die?
out there as far as that goes in the big store markets.
I never
Do they
unplugged.
dope it or do they use it straight?
The
don't.
best advertisement for it,
Look,
is
not only does John always keep it in his house, I have it right here just in case I need it, right by my studio. So
the best advertisement is the NFL player that stopped using Sweet Baby Ray's and lost 18 pounds.
yes, but that's today's Sweet Baby Ray's sauce. That's not the old time when it was organic and healthy and you lost weight eating Sweet Baby Ray's sauce. The selling of it made it a terrible amalgamation of what it was originally. Let's see. All right, well, let's call it a night here, guys. So we agree almost. Let's see. Yes, go ahead, Doug.
I want to say I have a guess on the Impact Award.
Oh, right. Do we think that there's going to be an Impact Award? Doug, you think there's going to be an Impact Award?
I think there is.
All right. Who or what?
It's going to be to the Colonial Cooks in Virginia, the true birthplace of barbecue in USA.
All right. He is committed. Colonial Cooks. I've never heard of that, but we'll see. John, do you think there's going to be an Impact Award? And if so, who or what?
No, I'm going with no because I don't know who it would be. So I go nope.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
Rusty, Impact Award tomorrow or no? And if so, who or what?
I would say no because that's what the Hall of Fame is. They made an impact. I don't know why you would need another one. From the Hall of Fame.
Do you even know what the Impact Award is?
I don't know. They hit somebody.
Rusty, it's now something that doesn't have to happen every year, but is there a group or an organization or something that has made an impact in the landscape of live fire that maybe they can't go in as like an individual, like maybe a Darren Worth or a Chris Lilly or whatever, but they've made a big enough impact. Like, for instance, last year was the unsung African-American pitmasters. Do you see something like that happening this year? And if so, who or what would it be?
I have no idea. I'd say some stupid like Operation, Barbecue Relief, but I'm sure that's the dude, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Let's just go with no. Let's just go with no.
Right. High school barbecue teams.
There you go. How about that? Pulling it right out of left field. Good for you, Rusty. I think the Impact Award. I don't think there's going to be an Impact Award.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
John, did you have another try? Yeah. I thought John was.
I was just going to recant and go. Yeah. I was just going to recant if I couldn't go. I'm going to go with the BBQ Central Show and Greg Rempe for the Impact Award for tomorrow. See where that lands. Hey, it could happen.
Look, let's talk about that for a second. Is that, John, let's stick with you. Is that an honor for me or is that a bit of a slight?
I see it as an honor. If they're saying you had an impact on the industry and they can keep you away from that podium at awards, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, I know you don't need to be in the Hall of Fame. You're going to wind up in the Library of Congress. No one else in the Hall of Fame is going to wind up in the Library of Congress other than you. So no, I don't think it's a slight at all. I think it's a nod to your recent years of partnership with the organization.
Doug, is that a slight for me or is that an honor?
I'd say would be a little bit of a slight for you, but it would be protecting. It'd be a CYA for them.
All right. So you're aligning more with John's thought on that?
Yeah.
Rusty, slight or honor?
It's a slight, bro. Like, I'm too competitive for that, man. I want the Hall of Fame. I want to be a Hall of Famer, and I'm in the Hall of Congress.
You're damn right, Rusty. You're pumping me up. Let me tell you something. If I get that Impact Award, you can shove it up your ass. I want in the Hall. I want in the Hall. Or I'm out. That's right.
You're still in the Hall. You'd still be in the Hall.
No. I want the Hall as me, not an impact. I'm me. I'm a pillar. Tell him, Rusty, I'm a pillar.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, we're going to run over. I got to ask this question because next month it's not going to be timely. This past weekend, Memphis In May takes place, as we know. Winning it is a team called Ridiculous Barbecue Crew, however they spell it. And it's a bit of an amalgamation of sorts. What I come to find out here recently is one of the pitmasters on the team is a former winner of Memphis In May, the guy that was the pitmaster of Natural Born Grillers from back in the day. I believe he was winning his shoulders. John, and the last name escapes me, unfortunately. But he was on that team, and then a Pigged Beach out of New York City. There were some folks that were on the team as well, but it was a big amalgamation. The question is this. First of all, Blues Hog was pretty freaking close coming back-to-back. They finished third overall in Hog. I wanted to see him go back-to-back because then that was going to be a whole statement that we were going to be talking about here this evening. But knowing what we know now, Blues Hog winning last year with Hog or Ridiculous winning this year and doing it with Ribs is the bigger win. Which one? Doug.
Wow, that's a great question. When I talked to Heath Riles was actually cooking ribs because he wanted to be the guy to win in ribs in 21 years of absentee winner in ribs. So, wow, I almost think that Blues Hog is still bigger because they were cooking on that pit for one of the first few times and just came out of nowhere. So I'm still go with Blues Hog.
John, bigger shock, Blues Hog winning last year or Ridiculous winning with Ribs, keeping in mind that Ribs hadn't won overall grand champion since 2002, which was Pyro Pig Maniacs were the last ones to do it.
It's like, winning in Ribs is the bigger win, period. I don't care what's happened in the last 21 years. It's like it was no one. You don't cook ribs to win at Memphis in May because you can't. And they did it. Bam, boom, slam dunk. Drop the mic, walk away.
Rusty, bigger shock, Blues Hog winning last year in whole hog or Ridiculous winning this year in ribs?
Back in the late 70s, the Dogtown and Z-Boys, if you guys never heard of this, it's a skateboarding documentary about the Zephyr team. And back in the day, people were riding on skateboards all flimsy and doing their little cute little tricks. And these guys just came in and wrecked the whole thing. Tony Hawk, they started doing all these crazy tricks. They come out of nowhere. Nobody sees this kind of thing, what they're doing. They break everything down. You don't even recognize it anymore. The way that they used to skate. Now they skate this way. They're skating in pools like Tony Hawk does. They changed the whole game, and Blues Hog did that last year. And that to me is huge because it kind of woke a lot of people up. And I think that it's going to be a really cool thing going forward. And the new guard has arrived essentially.
All right. Rusty is impassioned. I think Doug agrees with him. I hate to say that both Rusty and Doug are 100% wrong, and John and I are right. Regardless, a 21-year vacancy of Ribs winning the overall grand championship at Memphis in May is easily the bigger shot. Easily. I get that Blues Hog came in and changed the game, as Rusty said, but when you have a 21-year layoff on Ribs, like, I can cook pretty good ribs. So for Ribs to win the day at Memphis in May in 21 years, I want to know what the ribs tasted like when the Pyro Pig Maniacs made it, when they won it back in 2002, and how much the rib difference and taste has changed in 21 years. Like, that's how big of a gap it is. It's like exactly 21 years. So John and I are right, and John and Doug and Rusty are going to have to go home taking the L on this one, boys, but that's all right. Next month, you can try and get back off the schneid, and there you have it. So we have Doug to the right of me, the longest-running embedded correspondent from Texas, and John is below me from Michigan, who is also the executive producer of the Best Moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less, and then Rusty from the great city of Utah. Before we go on the way out, Doug, anything to promote?
Well, of course, I invited Lynn and Jeff, and I think this is one of the most interesting interviews that you will ever hear on Sterling Ball. That will be an upcoming show. I think it's unlike anything you've ever heard.
All right. Well, that means Doug, who is the host of the Baseball and Barbecue Show with his co-hosts Len Aberman and Jeff Cohen, is back at it again. Sounds like there'll be a Sterling Ball sighting. Happy to hear about that. I'm glad your podcast is going so well, Doug. I mean, you're, many hundreds of episodes in. I mean, who knew you were such a baseball and barbecue fanatic, but you've really spun this into a business.
And we're moving it from New York to San Antonio, Texas.
And the charity of you to bring these guys who barely know what they're talking about onto your show, make them feel good about themselves, this and that. I mean, you are a true gentleman, and we certainly appreciate you here on this show as well. John, anything to promote on the way out?
My Instagram's back up. I got hacked, but it's back. So check that out over at JS00. And of course, Friday, don't miss the best moments of the
You didn't pay for that customer service, did you, John?
I did not pay for that.
Yeah.
Probably why. Yeah. No, I didn't do it. I was going to, but I didn't. Nope. I'm back. JS00.
Rusty, on the way out, anything?
You can always listen to the Pitmasters podcast. We won't have an episode this coming up week, but you can get caught up in that time.
Yes.
And you also can follow me at Salt City Barbecue, spelt out with a C. If you want to come to Utah and eat some barbecue, we'll be out somewhere if you come to Utah at this point. We are everywhere.
All right. So, gentlemen, always appreciate it. There they are. The embedded correspondents, Doug, John, and Rusty. We will see them at the end of June, and we are over. I didn't think we were going to be over at all, but
This is Chris Payne
from Euclid, Ohio, and you are listening to BBQ Central.
All right, there's
Let's
Chris
get
Payne
back
right
to a
there.
guy who
Oh,
has more
okay. Wow.
experience.
Look at what's happened here. You go a little long, and everything is just all off kilter. So we'll make sure that we spend 1 second here. Take all these off and get out the right way. Let's eject that. Now we can go. Right. All the way back in the first hour, Chris Lilly. BigBobGibson.com, or you can follow Chris socially. Chris Lilly BBQ on Instagram and Twitter. See what he's up to. Interact with him in that platform or those platforms. And then the second hour, the embedded correspondents. Doug Scheiding from Texas, John Solberg from Michigan, Rusty Monson from Utah. Talking about who we think might be voted in by the voting members tomorrow, and also who we would like to see go in. We also had 100% Assurity questions. So if you missed all of that, make sure that you get all the podcasts. If you're just tuning in now, hour number 1 up here shortly, and hour number 2 Thursday, and a best of on Friday featuring Melissa Cookston, pitmaster of Yazoo's Delta Q, and the owner of the Memphis Barbecue Company restaurant down there in Memphis. So programming note, once again, tomorrow on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, there will be a live exclusive show announcing who the Barbecue Hall of Fame members are going to be for 2023, both living in the legacy category. We will also learn if there will be an Impact Award. And then we will have a big show, new big show, next Tuesday as we get ready for June. Still 1 more week left. But we'll be, actually, we will be in June. I believe we'll be, that's not right, is it? In any event, next Tuesday, there's going to be a show, and it's going to be live, and it's going to be really big. This I can tell you. There'll probably be a Sam the Cooking Guy. There'll probably be a Malcolm Reed. The whole kit and caboodle that you've become used to. So, how do I always leave? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Bye-bye.
This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.